Corn is the grain produced in the largest quantities in the United States. It is grown on farms all across the nation and brings in the greatest profit margins of all grains. Over the past 10 years, corn harvests have averaged $250 per acre, with 90 million acres harvested each year. Mankind has found many different uses for the versatile grain, ranging from food to sugarless sweeteners and livestock to plastics. Corn has upheld many duties. The United States has shown by the mass quantities of corn produced that there is no problem growing and harvesting corn. The problem is what to do with it all. In 2007, the USDA recorded that 11 billion bushels were consumed as food or livestock feed. 10 billion bushels were exported to other countries where grain is more expensive to grow. The United States has contributed over 50% of the world's corn trade over the last 30 years. More than 15 billion, however, were dedicated to the production of ethanol, a corn-based fuel. Ethanol has been added to the long list of possible solutions for the rising price of oil. Ethanol alcohol is blended with up to 10% gasoline and can be used to fuel engines, limiting the dependence on crude oil. The plan thus far has been for the farmers of the United States to cultivate the replacement of gasoline. The farmers have already shown the mass amounts of corn that can be harvested, and there are many takes on whether the demand for ethanol will be detrimental to the corn market. The worry is how the cost of food is going to be affected if more corn is dedicated to fuel use. Bruce Scher, who completed a study funded by the Renewable Fuels Foundation, stated that blaming the use of corn to produce ethanol for the rise in food prices is, quote, to grossly underconsider all other forces at work. Scher's study states that the greater impacts on the rising costs of food have been costs unrelated to farming, the record oil prices, and the cost of shipping. This study, however, was performed with data contradictory to that of the USDA, stating lower percentages of the corn being used for the production of ethanol. Congress has mandated that corn ethanol production must rise 3.5 billion gallons between 2006 and 2012, making the total production 7.5 billion gallons per year. While the production of corn ethanol has been increasing, beef prices have risen 31%, eggs 50%, and corn sweeteners 33%. These increases are significant when you consider that the amount of corn used for ethanol production will rise 11% between 2004 and 2014. Many studies have shown that the use of corn for the production of ethanol will not be a detriment to the corn food market. The corn supply for ethanol will be balanced by exporting less corn to other countries. Many economists view this to be best for our market because the greater domestic demand eliminates cost of shipping overseas. But even if the price of food in the United States export market is not harmed by the increased use of corn, is corn ethanol still a good choice? Although corn ethanol can be used to reduce our dependence on gasoline, it does not come without consequences. Ethanol is expensive to manufacture, transport, store, and blend with gasoline to fuel automobiles. Ethanol is also very rough on equipment. It absorbs water very easily, and since water is corrosive to engines and other machines, the ethanol fuel must be handled more carefully than gasoline. It cannot be pumped through pipelines as petroleum fuels are, and must be carried by tanker truck to blending plants, and from there to gas stations. If the ethanol is pumped through pipelines, and any water has been absorbed, the pipeline is at risk to corrosion, risking leaks in the pipes that could end catastrophically. Many of the engines ethanol fuel is planned to power will also be at risk of mechanical failure. The seals and gaskets currently produced for engines do not stand up well to the corrosive properties of ethanol. The The pumps at gas stations would also have to be replaced for the same reasons. Because of the expensive methods that must be taken to bring E85 ethanol to consumers, Congress has subsidized the production to 51 cents per gallon. The taxpayer makes up the difference. This subsidy, however, will bring E85 ethanol to the consumer at $2.49 per gallon at the pump. $2.49 seems like a reasonable price, but it does not factor in the indirect cost of ethanol production. The true cost will be nearly $7. Ethanol does not yield as much energy as gasoline, but about 30% less per gallon. Therefore, a vehicle running E85 ethanol will have a fuel economy that is nearly 25% less than the same vehicle running on gasoline. This is a major problem if the use of ethanol in automobiles is supposed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Corn ethanol emits slightly less greenhouse gases than burning gasoline, but the sacrifice of power negates the slightly lower emission levels. Running E85 in a car is cleaner, however, that car must fill up more frequently, burning more fuel to go the same distance. Therefore, there is no gain in cleaner air when the lower emissions are outweighed by the quantity of fuel burned. Lester Brown's book, Plan B, describes what could happen if the switch to corn-produced biofuel is made. Brown's intent is to redevelop society to where Earth's natural systems function properly, along with eradicating hunger. Expanding the production of corn-based ethanol yields the exact opposite outcome that Lester Brown urges mankind to find. The use of corn to create fuel will cause more corn to be grown each year, meaning more fields will be plowed, more fertilizers laid down, more aquifers drained, and more herbicides and pesticides sprayed onto our soils. Land base is being damaged enough with our current farming regimen. We are depleting our water resources while starving our soils of the nutrients they need. We try to replace those nutrients with fossil fuel-based fertilizers, only to exacerbate the problem and poison the already lowered water sources. Not only will increasing the production of ethanol hurt the land base even more, but it will lead away from Brown's goal of eradicating hunger. The plan to decrease corn exports to fulfill corn ethanol production is already going to limit the number of people fed in other countries. The amount of corn used to produce 25 gallons of E85 ethanol could feed one person for an entire year. There are over 1 billion people in the world that do not know where their next meal is coming from. We are increasing our production of food, limiting how many people will be fed by it, and burning our food as fuel. Society's dependence on crude oil is coming to an end. A new source of energy is needed. But when it comes to corn, is it food or fuel?